which I bought a brand new one of today. Make a small hole in one end, pour out of it, little air hole at the other end. Drop it in here. Fill the master cylinder to the brim. I bled this 6 weeks ago. The fluid is already yellow. This is dot 4. Dot 4 fluid and dot 3 have an affinity for water, and any water from anywhere that has a source of getting in there will do so. Same thing for air. The seals around your master cylinder tend to, when you let off really fast, make a vacuum area, a low pressure area that try to pull air in. Or if it just sits for a long time, the fluid will somehow just seep out. You won't see it because basically it dries it, so it seeps so slowly. So now I've done that. I'm going to open this again. Put a paper towel on it this time so it doesn't spew everywhere. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now the reason I use a finger or a thumb on that, because if you have air in there, you will feel it go past your finger. You'll feel it as the little air bubbles come past. You'll get a steady stream of fluid, and you feel like of air coming past. This is basically pressure bleeding it by using the master cylinder. If you could use a vacuum bleeder on that slave cylinder, or on the caliper, and steadily feed fluid in this end as it's pulled out of the other end by the vacuum bleeder, you could do this in 3 minutes. But I don't have a vacuum bleeder, so it doesn't really matter. So one more time, and one thing I'm checking for here is I'm checking for bubbles coming out while I'm doing this as well. I don't know if I've gotten any. Not feeling any bubbles. By the time you run through the reservoir 3 times, you have purged the entire system of its old fluid, and you have all new fluid in it. Okay, I'm going to stop there at 5. 15 strokes on that master cylinder will completely drain the reservoir 3 times, and will put an entirely new batch of fluid through your brake lines. Once you've done that, and you get to a point where you can do 5 steady pushes on the rear brake pedal without feeling any air come out, you're done. You just tighten it down. I have the screwdriver in there, so let me give it a good hard push, make sure it's firm. Oh, it's very firm. Nice and locked down. All right, and now I will fill the reservoir almost to the top, not all the way, because you have your bellows there, and this little thing takes up room. You want this thing to not press fluid into the system or to overflow past it, so you don't fill the reservoir all the way up. Just put this in, put the cap back on. It should go in really easily, and if you've got really good eyes, you should be able to see a gap between the fluid and the bellows, maybe a 1/16 of an inch. They do have top and bottom fill marks on this. Immediately, recork, recap your dot 4. That's just $15 for a quart. That ain't cheap. That's done. Now, putting it back together. Several steps that you should follow. First off, we've had brake fluid everywhere here. So I'll pull the screwdriver out and re-expand this. Like so. And I'll pull the towel down. Okay. We've had all sorts of brake fluid flying everywhere. So the first thing we do, clean it off with some brake parts cleaner. And down in here. And everything else, make it nice and healthy. Don't want any of that on the remain on the pads. You can help it. I'm sure some seeps on there. More paper towels. Dry that off. And now By the way, this is carbon. All this black stuff you see on the bike is carbon. Rest out on the wheel nice and easy so don't scratch. So, next step. Pull out a bottle of red Loctite. Red Loctite, folks. Little story for you. I took this down to one of our local dealerships to have tires put on. And I bought them the socket for the rear on both sides so they get hammered off with their impacts. And they put the tire on and got it all balanced and everything's fine. Took it down the road, everything's great. 6 weeks later, I'm riding with the guys. One of these fell out. Lost it. The other one was barely hanging on. And when this caliper decided to fall down and catch the rim, it snapped off this mounting plate right here. Just snapped it off like it was nothing. And clattered and banged and made all sorts of crazy noises. Well, we wound up zip tying this up here and then riding home with just front brakes, which I don't like doing. And I went to the dealership, I will not mention names, said, listen, why didn't you guys tighten my caliper down? We didn't even take it apart. Yes, you did. No, you didn't. Yes, you did. How do you know? And I showed them the bolt. See how that's kind of a nice hex, right? It was twisted out right here. Now, I'd never had calipers off. But you see how it's kind of expanded there? I shouldn't be reusing this bolt, but I'm going to replace them in a couple of days anyway. I'm going to go, now that I see how many times they've been buggered, it's time to replace them anyway. But they should look more like that. But I'm going to get a couple of more bolts. Number 8 thread by 20. Good, strong stainless steel will do fine. The tensile strength on this stuff is about 80,000 psi. There's no way the rib race's going to shear it off. So you can get these from Home Depot or Lowe's or someplace like that. Just 8 by 20 hex head or Allen head. A Torx head, if you can get it, would be cool because you can really torque it. But they're 20 foot-pounds, which isn't that much. So now I've cleaned the threads. Each one gets a drop of Loctite. Always Loctite. Anything on a V-twin. I don't care what kind of V-twin it is. Any V-twin. Because they have secondary vibrations. And now, I'll slide this into place all nice and neat. And this is where it gets to be fun because this is a bear to find these mounting lugs down here. There it is. Okay. Pads are on. And it's going into there. Trying to get back in there. There. So you always Loctite them. Alright, it's going to be that way. It's easier to do this with the tire off, but I had to put the stand on it. I can't do it from both sides at once. Okay. Slide one in. It's all done by feel here. Guess I could lay down and do it, but I'm not going to do that. Get this one started by hand. Maybe. There you are, George. George decided to cooperate. All right. Now the other one. All right. Chains are always green. I said 20 foot-pounds, right? Let's show you what 20 foot-pounds is. My calibrated mechanic's hands. That's 20 foot-pounds. Actually, it's probably just a tad more, but that's fine. The Loctite and everything else is going to make sure this baby never comes loose. Apart. Now, watch the master cylinder level. See how it's right there? There. And there's my total brake travel. That's it, folks. So, don't be draining your brakes. Bleed them. It may take a little time. You may have to chase a little bit of a problem. But if you do it the way I just did it, you will never have air in your lines when you're finished.